Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Lovely Freaks podcast. I'm your host Amanda.
And I'm Hannah.
And today is New Year's. So happy New Year's. Whoop whoop. Hopefully 2021 will not suck as bad as 2020, but probably so.
Knock on wood.
I love how you're like, knock on wood, and I'm over here like, it's gonna suck.
Nobody say or like, oh, this is gonna be my year. No. We're just all gonna walk in and be like, okay, don't touch anything. Don't say anything. Here we are. This is the year.
Sit down in the corner. Don't breathe. Yeah, so anywho, hopefully you guys enjoyed, or well, not really enjoyed, can't really enjoy that episode, but hopefully you listened to the Junko episode. If you did not, you can go listen to it right now. It's the one before this one. It's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
Well, and I say that like right off the bat, but her story needs to be out there more because not a lot of people know about it, and I'm a firm believer in, getting stories out there. But hopefully if you did listen to it, it didn't bother you too bad. I don't know. I mean, hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we need to talk about. We're getting pretty close to we're getting pretty close to where we're gonna be on Spotify.
Yeah.
And iTunes. I'm kind of weeding out some stuff and trying to get that set up.
Because we know how to weed them out. Sorry, that's from SpongeBob, the SpongeBob movie.
Of course it is. Okay, so today, if you saw the title, then you know what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about Amityville Horror, the Amityville House, and all that happened. So we're going to kind of talk about what happened before the Lutzes moved in. So most people know, if you know from the movies, then you know about the Lutz family. They're the people that moved in after the Defeos and the tragedy that happened in the house. But if you didn't know, if you've watched the movies, the Amityville horror movies, at the beginning where the Defeos actually, they all get murdered, that's a true story. Mm-hmm. So that really happened. Real life, true story. And then the Lutzes move in and they kind of are experiencing these hauntings and things like that. And we'll get into all that later. But for the first good part of this, we're going to talk about the Defeos and kind of talk about what happened, because a lot of people don't know what happened. Like, they just know from the movie, like, he shot his family and then he went to jail, but they don't know anything about their life or nothing like that. So we're going to kind of dive into that today. So the Defeo family, and keep in mind, if you've seen the movies, then you know that this is the family that was in the house before the people in the movie moved in there. So
Before Deadpool.
Deadpool.
Or Deadpool came in and was like, hey, I'm going to come and do
well,
this house.
have you ever seen the older movie? I think it's in
70s
or 80s. I can't remember. It's pretty good. And he's a hottie with a body, too. I can't think of the guy's name. You need to look him up, though, because I can't think of his name. And then, the Deadpool one, Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds, let's call him by his name. He's my man. And he looks really good in that movie.
Man.
He looks good in that movie too. But anywho, so we're going to talk about the Defeos. So I'll start off by naming all of the Defeos. So we have Ronald Defeo Sr., and that's the father. And his name was he had a nickname, and his nickname was Big Ronnie. So we're going to call him by his big name. We're going to call him by his big name.
We're going to call him by his big old name.
We're gonna call him by his nickname because who was the guy? James Barlin. Yeah. Oh yeah, he was a good looking man.
Okay.
That was the guy in the first Amityville Horror. He was the dad in the first one.
He was good looking.
Yeah, he was a good looking man back in the day. So, okay. Yeah, so right. Ronald, we got sidetracked. Sorry, guys. Right. So, Ronald Defeo Sr. is the dad. He was 43, and we're going to call him Big Ronnie because Ronald Sr. and Ronald Jr., which Ronald Jr. is the one that murdered his family.
Yeah.
And we're going to call him Butch because that was his nickname.
Okay.
So, that way we don't get those confused. So, the father, Big Ronnie. Then we have Louise. She was the mother. She was 43. And we have 4 siblings. Dawn was 18, Allison was 13, Mark was 12, and John Matthew was 9. And these are all the people that died. And then we have Ronald Defeo Jr., a.k.a. Butch. That's his nickname. And he's the one that murdered them. So Louise, to kind of give like a backstory about the mother and the father, Louise's parents, they didn't like her marrying Ronald. I don't know if they were the same age, but like they just got a bad vibe from him or whatever. So they never really liked him to begin with. Ronald, after they got married, shortly after they got married, they had Ronald Jr., Butch. He was born September 26, 1951. And Butch had it pretty hard growing up. All the kids had it pretty hard growing up. So their dad was an abusive father. Mm-hmm. He was the firstborn, of course, and so he was the oldest boy, and he was just made to be like, like the father had high standards for him because he was the oldest and he was a boy. Mm. So he got disciplined pretty harshly. Like, it wasn't just a regular spanking or, something like that. Louise's brother, the mom's brother, so Butch's uncle, said that when he was 2, Butch, Ronald Jr., the dad, they were like down in the basement and they were watching TV or something like that. And he said this in court. He said that his dad stood up, got mad at him, and like slammed him up against the wall at 2.
At 2?
Yeah, and he hit his head.
Well, I can't believe you remember that. I guess from trauma.
No, he doesn't remember it. This was the mother's brother.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. It would be like you seeing Corey slam Madeline up against the wall or something like that.
2, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so yeah, he remembers like him hitting the wall, and he got like a head injury. So that kind of makes me wonder if maybe he had a head injury all these years, but they don't ever say anything about him having like any brain damage or anything like that as to why he killed his entire family. Yeah. Butch was also bullied in school. He was overweight, and he was called all different kinds of names. Kids are douchebags. And they bullied him and all that. In his teenage years, though, he started losing weight because, unfortunately, he started doing drugs. He started doing heroin, meth, and things like that. So the family, they had 5 kids. Correct? Yeah, 5 kids.
You asked me. Think. Correct, Hannah? I don't think, no.
I had to think about that. So they had,
5
1,
kids?
2, 3, 4, 5. They had 5. I felt like I was forgetting someone, but no. And so they didn't really believe in birth control because they were Catholic. I think they became more like Catholic after they moved into this big, huge house, the Amityville House. Mm-hmm. But it was said that they definitely didn't believe in birth control or anything like that. So that's kind of why they had so many kids, I guess. After Mark, the one before the youngest, Louise had enough of the abuse. So she was like, all right, I'm leaving you. So she left the dad, and I don't know, I mean, they were living with her mom and her dad, and Ronald's dad, Big Ronnie, he wrote her a song and like tried to like win her back, and obviously it worked because she got back with him. Mm-hmm. So apparently it was a pretty abusive relationship, and she was an abused spouse, and she left to try to get out of the situation, but then, of course, he wooed her back in. And so then when she got back with him, that was when they had their youngest son. In 1965, they moved into the Amityville House in Long Island. So I don't know exactly, like, what, when they moved in. I know that they had their son, I believe John Matthew, was born in October, and sometime either right before that or right after they moved into the Amityville House. So this was in Long Island, and that, that's crazy because in Rhode Island, there's a lot of hauntings in Rhode Island. Like, there's a lot of houses out there that are haunted, or like that have had ghost stories or something like that. Mm. Like, it's crazy how much, and I mean, rightfully so, I guess, because it's like one of the first colonized places, but still, like, I just think it's crazy. So Big Ronnie, he was a car dealer, And this house that they owned, this Amityville house, I don't know if you've seen pictures of it.
I've seen it.
Yeah, you've seen it. And it's kind of got, I mean, it's a huge...
Is it exactly like... It's exactly like the movie, right?
Yeah, the way it looks and all that.
The way it looks.
Yeah, and it's got the windows that kind of look like eyes or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, the house looks exactly like that. It's exactly the same. And in this house, they had they had lavish taste, okay? She was a stay-at-home mom with, 5 kids. Mm-hmm. And he was a car dealer. So people in the community were kind of like, how in the crap is he affording this house? Because they had, like, crystal chandeliers in the house. They had baby grand piano. Like,
God.
Her dad, they had these portraits that were painted for them. Mm-hmm. And it was actually her parents that did it. But her dad had these paintings made, like, the family portraits.
Yeah. Because,
back in the day, that was, like, a big thing. They would do, like, these huge family portraits. Well, they had this massive family portrait that was $50,000, by the way. Mm-hmm. No, sir. Not I. But whatever. Float your boat. Hanging in the house. So it was, like, super fancy. And come to find out later on, you'll find out that apparently there was he had some dealings with the mob, the dad did. Okay. And also there was like some shady stuff going on with his car dealership. So they were doing like crimes through his car dealership. I don't know necessarily, they never really said, but I don't know if it was like drugs or smuggling some money.
I was thinking smuggling maybe.
Yeah, maybe smuggling drugs or something like that. Not quite sure, but there was some criminal activity going on in his car dealership thing that he owned, which so that's pretty much all of the life that we know of what happened, but we'll get into the murders in just a second. But that goes back to the whole nature versus nurture thing. I mean, you can be, just because you're a millionaire doesn't mean that you're treating your kids fairly, and it doesn't mean that your kids won't one day snap like he does apparently and kill you.
Well, did they?
Because there was a lot of abuse going on in this house,
did
like
they
physical
ever,
and
so they never had any
abuse.
Like ghostly experience when they were in there.
No, we'll get into what.
But
Butch.
I was thinking why
Ronald Jr. What he claims.
He
claims some stuff, and we'll get into that. But I'm skipping ahead. We'll get into that. Okay, so November 13th, 1974. It was 6:30 p.m. And Ronald Jr., a.k.a. Butch, he comes to this tavern that's, like, right down the block from their house. And this is a tavern that he's been to before. Mm-hmm. And when he comes in the tavern, he says, "You got to help me. I think my mother and father are shot." That's all he said. Well, his best friend Bobby was there, and then a few other guys were there that he knew. And Bobby goes over to him. He's like, "What's wrong, man?" And he's like, I think my mom and dad are shot. I need help. Come with me. Come with me." And so he just, like, collapses in Bobby's arms. So him and 6 other guys, they hop in a truck and they drive all the way down to 112 Ocean Avenue, which is where the, Ocean Avenue threw me off. Where it's a
ADHD.
song. No, it's a song. So they drove down to where the house was. Yeah. And when they got there, Butch, or Ronald Jr., he just jumps out of the car and he's like, come on, and they're all like, wait a minute, you don't know if anybody's in there because you say that they've been shot, or you think they have. There could be a shooter in there. You don't know the situation. So instead of, like, they're not able to stop him, obviously, so they just run. And the friends say later that they thought that was kind of weird because he runs, like, straight upstairs. It's like where his family is at. So they're like, how did you know there wasn't anybody there that could have shot you, So they all reach the 2nd floor, and immediately they said that there was, like, a smell of death. So Bobby flips on the light to the master bedroom, and there, when he flips on the light, he sees Big Ronnie, Butch's dad, and he's laying face down. Mm-hmm. And his mom is laying face down. She's covered up with a blanket, but the dad is not, and there's a hole, like a gunshot hole in his back. The mom had a gunshot wound as well. And so he freaks out, and he runs back downstairs, and they're trying to, like, console him because he's freaking out because he just saw a dead body, obviously. And another guy named John goes to the boys' rooms on, I think it was the east side of the house. And so he checks on them. And he said when he got in there, all he could see was toys. And then they had like different figurines and stuff everywhere. And then he finally glances and he sees that the two boys, Mark, who's 12, and John, who's 9, they were laying on their beds, same way, face down on their bed, shot in the back as well. And I believe he shot his family in the backs with, I think it was a rifle. I know that much. And I can't remember the exact caliber, but it was a rifle. So, also, so they realized, or they thought, that they had all died in their sleep because of the way that they were all laid there, Yeah. It wasn't like some of them had ran or anything like that. So all the men think, okay, well, maybe they're, maybe somebody came in or an intruder came in or something like that and shot them all while they were sleeping. Or maybe it was a hired job because the dad, they knew it kind of was around town that he was kind of dealing in some shady stuff. So they thought, well, maybe like the mob or somebody like that was coming after his dad and like killed him all execution style. And maybe Butch just wasn't there or something. So after this, they went back downstairs and they called the police, obviously. They had not checked on the girls yet, I don't think. The police found the girls, but they were killed the exact same way as everybody else.
So, it's weird because, like, how did they not hear the gunshots?
We're going to get into that. So,
Okay.
We're going to get there. So, the police actually took Ronald Jr., Butch, they took him down to the station because they thought that he was in danger. Like, they thought, okay, it's either a hitman or it's the mafia or something like that's coming after your dad.
Yeah.
You obviously weren't here or something. You got out, so let's take you to the station because you're in danger. So after they examined the bodies and then they found the girls and all that, after Butch was down at the station, he started talking to the police and his story just wasn't lining up. Like, he was all over the place from what he had told the guys, from what he had told the police and other people, like riding in the car to the station, like what he told them happened.
Yeah.
So his story wasn't making any sense. There was a lot of holes. And it didn't take long because the next day he confessed to the murders. His defense, though, in court said that they coerced him into confessing. Like, they, the police were, like, making him confess. But obviously that was not true. And so this is what he told detectives when he was confessing. He said, once I started, I just couldn't stop. It went by so fast. Talking about killing his family.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to me. After he killed his entire family, he took a bath, he changed his clothes, and then he got rid of the rifle, and then he went to the bar. He told the police later on, like, where they could find the clothes with a little blood on them and where they could find the weapon. And he didn't really hide the weapon in a wonderful spot, or, like, he hid it in the boathouse, which was kind of weird. No one really knows to this day why he did it, though, because his story constantly changes, even to this day. Like, it always changes. I do know that he did say that he claims that at 3:15 he just woke up and was like,
"Yeah, gonna kill
let's
my
go kill my
family
family." Yeah.
Wow.
He said that. So he was doing heroin and he was drinking heavily, and he lived. Or he didn't live, but he stayed down in the basement.
And alcohol to do.
Yeah. He stayed down in the basement. So he was, that was like his bedroom or whatever. Mm-hmm. The trial began on October 14th, 1975. They tried to do a plea of insanity because he claimed that he heard voices.
Okay.
So he says that the voices that he was hearing was his family, and they were plotting against him. So that's what, the movie kind of talks about that. Nowhere does he ever say that he heard voices like ghosts in the movie, like the spirit of that guy or whatever in the movie that what is it? Like the the Indian guy that, it was like an old burial.
Yeah.
Or something.
Old burial ground.
Yeah. Or Indian, it was like something
ground.
that he used to torture Indian Native Americans or something like that. So, no, he doesn't say anything like that. He just said that he heard voices, which, I mean, if you're on heroin and you're drinking, I mean, you may hear voices telling you that your family's plotting against you.
Like, shouldn't do that.
I don't know. You could be seeing all kinds of stuff that you don't know. So, yeah, obviously that did not work, though. And the prosecution, of course, like they always do, they have someone that comes in and evaluates him, and their psychologist said no. He knew exactly what he was doing. So he was found guilty of six counts of second-degree murder, and he was sentenced to 6 consecutive sentences, and all of the sentences were 25 years to life with no parole. So he's never getting out. I'm pretty sure he's still there today.
He's still alive?
Yeah, he's still alive. Now, there are tons of conspiracy theories around this, and we're going to get into the thing about the gun that you said.
Yeah.
That I really, when I was researching this case and then like I was listening to some of the interviews and stuff like that or whatever, I didn't really think about it. But yeah, so the one thing is people don't understand how he can shoot his entire family and nobody wake up from the gunshot and move. Like, how are they all asleep?
Gunshots are super loud. Like,
yeah.
Somebody's going to get up.
This was a rifle, and actually the grandfather, he hired like an investigator to investigate this. And they said that when they investigated it, they said that there was 2 different guns that were used for the murder. But they have no idea who used the other gun, and they don't even know where it is. Now, is it possible that he used it, and just threw it out in the lake or something somewhere? Probably. But we don't know. The defense actually
doesn't make sense with the silent.
Yeah.
Are you saying like it was more silent?
I don't know. I mean, we don't know if it was or if it wasn't. They do know that, well, let me take that back. Yeah, because they do know that there wasn't a gun. They think there wasn't a gun that was used with a silencer on it.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not even sure if they had that back then in the 70s. Maybe. I think they did. But the defense, his defense actually did an experiment. Obviously it didn't work, but they showed that during the experiment, they showed that if you shot the rifle that he used, you could hear it a mile down the street. Which the houses in this, really upscale neighborhood were pretty far apart. So if somebody was sleeping in their house, they probably didn't hear it. But it still goes back to the fact that nobody... Like, I imagine, okay, he shoots the parents first. Because I do think that the dad, there was a little bit of, they kind of realized that the dad may have moved some. So maybe he shot mom, and then the dad went to, get up, and then he shot him.
Yeah.
But he didn't get to move very far. And then I imagine, the kids, coming out of their bedroom.
Yeah.
And be like, what's going on? But, I mean, I guess he could have told them, go back to bed, or he could have actually been that big of a douche and been like, go lay down on your bed, face down, and then shot him, I don't know. So, that's one of the conspiracies that, how can there not be more than one shooter? So, because some people think, okay, well, what if he hired a bunch of people or it was some sort of mafia thing gone wrong, and they all stood in the bedrooms, because there was 3 bedrooms, and they all stood in the bedrooms and shot them at the same time, So, so yeah, I said the grandfather, he hired an investigator, but because he believed, the grandfather, Louise's dad, he believed that, there's no way my grandson did this by himself. He for sure knew that he killed somebody, but he says there's no way he did it by himself. Now, Butch later claims, this is a claim, another one of his stories that he's made up, he later says that him and his sister were downstairs with 2 other guys, and they were smoking pot and they were getting high, and his sister came to him and said, let's kill mom and dad because I'm tired of the abuse and I'm tired of the fights and all this and that. And he wasn't going to do it, but she kind of like talked him into it or whatever. So him and his friend went upstairs, shot mom and dad, and she was supposed to be getting the kids together to go to their aunt's house. And they were going to just say that like an intruder came in and it was a bad deal gone wrong and somebody shot mom and dad. Well, then he walks in there. I think the friend he says that the friend like runs downstairs or gets scared and runs outside or whatever, and he goes after him, but he couldn't find him, and then he hears more gunshots in the house, and he freaks out and he runs back in. Well, his sister killed the kids. That's what he says. He says his sister killed the kids, and in a fit of rage, because he didn't understand why she did that, they started fighting back and forth, and then he shot her in the back of the head. And I'm just like...
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Blame it on your sister. Yeah.
But then all of a sudden he makes up the story. You need to tell that story like right up front or call the police or something.
Exactly. Like, why wouldn't you just tell that story right away? I think he has like some sort of mental disorder or like a split personality or something, because, he comes up with a lot of different claims over the years.
Yeah.
So... that's pretty much it. Like, that's the story about the Defeos. It's not a very long story, but it is a story that we've seen a lot. Like, I didn't know that there was abuse going on.
Yeah.
I mean...
I thought there was ghosts, like, and then the ghost told him to do it.
Yeah. Well, he does say... Does. Yeah. He did say another one of his stories, is that voices made him do it, or spirits in the house or something like that. But I think that story that he told kind of came out like after the Lutz, after he found out like what they had supposedly experienced in the house, because we're going to talk about their experiences. But to be perfectly honest, like, I'm not 100% sure on it. So I do know that they say that they packed up all their stuff and left when they were experiencing these things, and they never went back for it. Well, however, you're going to find out that a lot of the stuff that they had in the house was already the Defeos. And we'll get into that. Okay. So now enters the Lutz family. This part's kind of crazy to me, and I didn't really realize it.
After this, when did they move into the house, the Lutz family?
Yeah, it was only 13 months after.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Because I looked at the movie. I mean, the movie was made... Because that's just weird how fast.
Oh, yeah. Well, they moved in December 18th, 1975. The first movie was made where?
Was 1979.
Yeah. So as soon as they only lived there 28 days. I think it was 20. Yeah, they only lived there for 28 days. And as soon as they moved out, they pretty much wrote a book. Like, as soon as they moved out. Like, they got with somebody and wrote a book about their experiences.
That's weird, too.
Yeah. So, and then, like, boom, they're making a movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they moved in 13 months after the murders. And when they moved in, they did know about the murders. So, the realtor did tell them, and plus, it was only 13 months, so people around town were still talking about it. So, it was, like, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And nobody really wanted to live in that house, and they got it for a really cheap freaking price, obviously, because everybody knew them, the Defeos, and they were like, I'm not living in a house where 6 people were murdered. So they decided to move in. One thing that's really weird is that the dad, the George Lutz, he kind of dabbled in like black magic, but it wasn't like he wasn't great at it or whatever. So I'm wondering if some of the experiences, I did air quotations, you guys can't see me, but I'm wondering if some of the experiences are from things that maybe he conjured up but doing something wrong or not knowing what the crap he was doing. Because if you're going to work with magic, you need to know what you're doing. You don't need to, work with other forces. You have no clue what you're doing. So he kind of
in your house.
Yeah. So he kind of dabbled in it, and so I thought that was really weird, because who would want to buy a murder house? Like who would? And the thought popped in my head. I was like, well, somebody that dabbles in black magic, probably, because they're thinking, okay, well, I'm going to buy this house. I'm going to conjure these spirits. And then I'm going to, like, leave and write a book about it or something like that. Or maybe he had intentions to write a book. Or maybe that
was their idea.
All along. To write a book, yeah. Because the day that they got there, they claimed that they called a priest, like, day one, to come bless the house. Well, yeah.
I mean, maybe, like, did they experience anything and then they called?
No. They just called the...
Well, I mean, I would do that.
I would probably do that if I knew that there was a murder that happened, and I still... First of all, I wouldn't buy a house that 6 people were murdered in, just plain simple, no thank you. They'd have to burn the house before anybody would buy it, in my opinion. But... Exactly. So the priest went to the 2nd floor where the boys were killed, and he started sprinkling holy water on the floor. This is what's in the book. He started sprinkling holy water on the floor, and I think this is kind of in the movies too. And immediately he hears a male voice shout, "Get out." So he claims that in the book they claim that the priest never told them this, but the priest did tell them, like, nobody needs to stay in that room because there's some bad spirits in that room. Mm-hmm. And nobody did. Like, the Lutzes, they made like a sewing room out of that room or whatever. Yeah. So some of the things that they experienced are pretty crazy. So right off the bat, the first night, everything felt weird. A couple of days later, like, the personalities of the parents and the kids, like, the kids started becoming, like, misbehaving and being brats and stuff like that. And I think they had 3 kids. And then the mom and dad were kind of, like, becoming abusive. They would hit the kids or you know, not hit them in the face, but they would spank them with belts or spoons or something like that, and they never really did that. Some of the other claims were that they kept hearing smells. That's intense. Hearing smells. They kept I can
smell the garlic bread cooking.
They kept smelling weird smells. There was black stains on everything, and even, like, on the toilets and stuff that they couldn't scrub off. There was green slime on the walls.
Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Who are you gonna call?
Yeah, I thought that was really strange. At one point, 100 flies appeared in the sewing room, the room that the priest had blessed, and they were just flying around.
Isn't that a scene in the movie?
Yeah, but the priest is in the room at that time. Mm-hmm. But he wasn't in the room.
Yeah,
in the book. I guess the mom or somebody was in the room at the time. Mm-hmm. The family says that all the crosses would flip upside down on their own. Kathy claims that she was a victim of unseen presences touching her inappropriately. Ghost sex, which is a thing. And I actually listened to a podcast about that. I found one. And I think it's Bumblebutt Podcast. They're pretty cool. There's 2 dudes, and they're really awesome. And they had this thing where somebody was talking about, these spirits that would, like, arouse them in the middle of the night. Like, they're just laying there, and all of a sudden
somebody's rubbing your
bean.
Your bean. Your little bitty bean.
Or your big pole. You know, whichever one. And I was just like, what?
Side note, I wanted to say, I saw this thing where people say that there's supposedly some kind of demon or goblin or something that, when you have, like, sexual dreams. Well, it stands over you. Are you talking about a succubus? Is that what it is? It stands over you and watches you, and it sucks all the sexual energy out. And I'm now, like, if I have a sex dream, I'm gonna wake up and, like, what the fuck? I'm gonna stop with the sex. Is this a dream? Get away! Don't touch me.
So there's this one. This is a total side note. We're getting off track, but there's this one thing that I gotta tell you guys. So, in their podcast, they were talking, I think they were reading these off of a forum, because it's kind of what it sounded like. Mm-hmm. And this one lady said that she needed help because her husband was cheating on her with a ghost.
Oh my gosh.
So, she said that she was laying, just short version, she was laying in bed, and it was the middle of the night.
And she
looked over, and he had an erection, and then the covers started moving, and he was asleep.
He was asleep?
He was asleep. And then it goes on further, but she got, like, mad. Like, she was upset. And then it happened to him.
I would be concerned.
He
Gerald,
was
what's
scared.
going on?
He was, well, he claims he was scared.
I don't know what's going on.
I'm sure he wasn't.
Honey. I'm so scared right now. I just started doing this thing. I don't know what's going on. I'm being raped.
Yeah. I'm sure if it really was true, I'm sure, which I doubt it, but if it was, I'm sure he was not unthrilled about it. Didn't seem like he was. So he claims that he didn't appreciate it and that it kept happening, like, every night. Like, he would just be laying there and the sheet, like, she could tell, like, his hands were not under the sheet.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, they would feel the bed moving.
Rocking.
And there it went.
There
and
it
I'm
went.
just,
there
there it went. I'm just like, what? So anyways, yeah. Really interesting podcast.
Sidetrack.
So yes, the mother, Kathy, claims that she was being a victim of, something like that. Sexual
stuff.
Ghosts. George also said that he was cold all the time and he was always by the fireplace. He would wake up every night at 3:15 a.m. Ooh. Which is when, the guy
woke up.
Or, Ronald Jr., Defeo, he would wake up, or when he waked up to kill his family.
Yeah.
But could they have found that in public record?
Yeah.
Probably. He claimed that his wife turned into an old hag right in front of him one night. So, a lot of the stuff is really over the top and dramatic and all that. Now, the priest that they said that they brought to the house, and they also claim that he came back another time to bless the house, he actually never showed up at all. So, they contacted, somebody contacted him later on after the book came out, and he was like, yeah, I've never set my foot in that house, ever.
Yep.
So, I mean, who are you going to believe? The family or a priest? I'm going to believe a priest.
Priest.
Sorry, I don't know. But maybe they moved in, like I said, because he wanted to try to deal with, I don't know. I kind of think that they moved in that house so they could write a book. I mean, they only lived there for 28 days. And yes, like I said, they did leave all their crap, but they didn't have a lot of stuff to begin with anyways. So they were only there for 28 days. All the furniture that they had in the house, every single bit of furniture was the Defeos. They bought it. They wanted it there. They wanted to keep it there. $400. It was only $400 worth.
I would feel even weirder with the furniture being there and
like
the murder
the beds,
and
I think like the mattresses were not, obviously, but the bed frame and
like how they were murdered.
The couches and everything was still in that house.
Yeah.
So when they moved out, they didn't have to take anything with them except for their suitcase, basically. Which makes me think, okay, that's probably what they did.
Yeah.
Also, I thought it was really weird because I was like, first of all, why would you want to buy anybody's old furniture when you're first starting out? I mean, it was only $400 because, like I said, they got the house for a steal. The house was at $400, but the house with the furniture only cost $400 extra with the house.
That's what's right.
That's a cheap house. Girl, I'd buy it. No. So, I mean, maybe they didn't want to have to lug all their furniture from wherever they were coming from or whatever, but I don't know. I just thought it was weird. It made me think, okay, that they had the intention of only staying there for a long time, claiming that they had all these ghost experiences and demonic things happen to them, and then leave so they could, write a book about it. Because, the book did come out fairly soon after they moved out, and the movie right after.
Right when we started and Googled the
movie,
I was like, why? It started in 1974 and it's 1979.
Yeah, I mean, even after the murders,
I was thinking it was gonna be it's happened in 1930 and now it's 1979. They're making the movie.
I'm flipping through my pages, but the murders happened in 74.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they didn't do... And that's probably why they didn't really have much about the murders in the movies, because there wasn't much to go on, Yeah. Ed and Lorraine Lauren actually visited the house in 1976, and they decided to do a seance, and they also had some professors with them and doctors with them from different science, paranormal investigation things. So... Lorraine, being clairvoyant, she claimed, and I saw this, but I wasn't quite sure if she meant Ronald Sr. or Ronald Jr. She says Butch, which is Ronald Jr. She said that he was the bad spirit in the house, but I don't know how.
Yeah. Because
he was in jail. So
maybe she means like the energy that he put. Like she can feel that energy.
The energy, or I'm thinking that maybe she actually did mean Ronald Sr., which was Big Ronnie. But I'm not entirely sure.
So they didn't feel any ghost experience or anything like that?
No. So the paranormal investigators that were with her, like the science guys and everything, they had their... I'm going to sound really dumb right now. They had their science gear for their...
They had science gear. You know what I'm talking about?
I can't think of what it is. You know, the stuff.
Yeah.
Like, to gauge, like, energy. There we go. That's what I'm looking for.
Looking for
paranormal energy and stuff like that. No, they couldn't find anything in the house.
Okay.
There wasn't anything. So yeah, but that is it. That's pretty much it. So I thought it was pretty interesting. A lot of stuff I did not know about it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the Amityville horror movies, especially the second, like the remade version, that's like one of my favorite movies. So it was kind of a bummer to hear about the Lutz family, because for years, like I knew that people didn't believe their story because it was so crazy and out there, but I always thought, well, they left all their stuff. Like, that was true. They left their furniture and everything. So I was like, of course it happened. Like, that's something I would do if I was experiencing crap like that. I'd be like, peace. I don't know, somebody can burn it. I don't care what you do with it. But now that I know it was the Lutz family's furniture and stuff like that,
I think there's a documentary where they're like trying to prove that it's wrong. I think
there's not a documentary.
Didn't they say they saw hooves in the snow or something like that?
I don't know. They saw a pig with red eyes.
Yeah,
the Lutz family did claim that they saw a pig with red eyes.
Oh, and then I
think like ghost hunters or something like that went through that house. Somebody like that went to that house, and they didn't really see anything or experience anything, which is what those scientists with Ed and Lorraine saw too. Now I believe that Ed and Lorraine, I do believe that she's really clairvoyant, and I do believe that they've actually helped a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because like we talked about in The Conjuring, now do I think that maybe in her old age she kind of forgot things and embellished a little bit? Maybe so, but that could also be because maybe, you know, Hollywood has embellished their stories, or maybe her kids have tried to embellish it a little bit more so they make more money off of it. I don't know. But
I feel like that would be like truthful. Like kids could have embellished their stories.
Because, well, she didn't die not too long ago. She died in 2019? 18 or 19? So she lived for, I can't remember when Ed died. But, so yeah, that's pretty much it. It's pretty interesting. I definitely thought that the part about, they need to make a movie about the Defeos.
Yeah.
Like, that would be an interesting true crime movie right there. I mean, it doesn't have to be like a spiritual ghost, demonic thing. I mean, just the life that they lived. Obviously, the dad was shady as shit. There was a lot of abuse, and it could definitely be like a crime, true crime movie.
Does somebody live in the house now?
That I'm not sure of. I didn't look that up. Look that up. Google that. Drop that
because, Google. Like, if they're not...
I'm not sure. Now, I remember stories, like, back in the day. I'm so old. I remember stories when I was younger of people saying that, like, when they would try to somebody tried to tear down the Amityville house at one time or some crap like that. This is just a story that I heard. And they couldn't, like, there was wreckers that would... The wrecking ball would, like, come back at them, and, like, all this weird stuff.
Like a wrecking... they see Miley.
Like, all this weird stuff, and I'm just like, That wasn't true, but okay.
A little weird. All right.
So
yeah, somebody's still living there.
What does it say? Yes. In 2020, people live in the Amityville Horror House. The Amityville Horror House still stands in the same location, 112 Ocean Avenue, Amityville, New York.
And I'm looking at the house, and it's just so creepy looking, though.
Yeah. But it's really, I mean, it's a pretty house, though.
It is a pretty house, but it just looks like it's a...
See,
like
that
it's
was
looking
the...
at you.
He was a fun man back in the 70s.
It looks like, you know that house, that animated movie called, I'm pretty sure it's called
Monster House?
Monster House?
Yeah.
It looks like the Monster House.
Yeah, it does. My sister, my daughter used to love that movie back in the day. She would listen to it. I mean, she would watch it all the time.
Constantly, yeah.
So, yeah.
Well,
but, you know, I mean, the house from The Conjuring nowadays looks really bad. Like, it looks really creepy. But the one, like, when they had the white version, like, when it was painted white, when it was first The Conjuring house, I can't think of it right now. Arnold Estate, that's what it was.
Yeah.
It didn't look that creepy, but now that they've got, like, the barn effect to it or whatever, it looks a lot creepier. So anyways, that's it, you guys. We're done for New Year's Day. Yes, New Year's Day. This is actually not New Year's Day for us, but it will be posted on New Year's Day for you guys. So what are we going to do next? I think we need to do an alien one next. I really do. I want to do an alien
or a
something.
serial killer.
Or yeah, we still need to do a serial killer. We need to do a good serial killer episode. It's probably going to be a minute. It's probably going to be a while. I do want to say one thing though. If y'all have made it this far, hopefully you have, because I'm going to throw some knowledge at you. The Mindhunter book. So if you've watched Mindhunter, the show, it's good. It's great. It's fantastic. Season 2. I'm waiting for more seasons. But the book is phenomenal. I've been highlighting like a mother up in that thing. My sister-in-law gave it to me, and I've been highlighting all kinds of stuff for us to talk about because there's so many cases in that book, and some they go into some good detail in them, and you know they talk to serial killers in the book too, so it's really good. So I just wanted to drop that on you guys. You should get it. And yeah, so maybe we'll do another serial killer. I know we need to do like Ed Kemper or somebody like that.
Yeah. We need to do the Toy Box Killer one day.
Oh, yeah, but we already did. The Jinko one was pretty heavy. We're going to wait on the Toy Box.
Yeah, that's true.
We're going to give that we're going to give that one a minute to simmer down. Ed Kemper is I love that, y'all. If you go to our Instagram, you can see the meme that I posted. And I'm not trying to say that Ted Bundy is not an awful human being. He was an awful human being.
Yeah.
But I really hate it when people are like, talk about, you know, oh, do something on Ted Bundy. He's so infamous. And I'm just like, it's been done so much. Like, they have so many movies. They have so many TV shows. And he really was not, I mean, he was just a womanizing douche, basically, who was a killer.
Yeah.
We could do Jeffrey Dahmer, though.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff about him that I didn't know that I've learned over the years.
I like Jeffrey Dahmer.
You'd like him?
Well, not like that.
I mean, there are women that do. I don't know.
And I'm like, no.
In the words of Bailey Sarian, get better idols. Okay. Well, anyways, so that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you get notified. Also, like the video.
Subscribe.
Because the more likes we get, the more... Yeah, subscribe. And tell all your friends about us. Share us with the world so that way we can get more subscribers and eventually we'll get, you know, we'll get to be famous. No, I'm just kidding. What did you say?
I said getting jiggy with it.
Getting jiggy with it.
We'll get jiggy with it.
Yeah, that's right.
If you take us out in the world, we'll get jiggy with it. We promise.
And then we promise that we're going to get... Well, maybe I don't need to promise. No, you know what? Screw it. I promise. We're going to get on Spotify and iTunes because that is the goal. That's the ultimate goal, and that's what I'm going to do. All right. Well, hope you guys have a wonderful New Year's Day, and we'll see you guys later. Bye.